Hi there everybody, my name is Kate and welcome to my channel, Trinergy Awakens Naturally. So I wanted to talk to you about generational trauma today. And the reason that this came up was a beautiful reminder that came through the most amazing route that I was not expecting, and yet what a great teaching and learning for everybody in the room. I was at my appointed rounds today with the United States Penitentiary. I come out to the penitentiary pretty often, and I visit felons on the routine and tell them, ways that they can possibly reconfigure their life and, look at things a little differently and make better decisions, when they enter into their life again in a different way. Start today with making different decisions and start making a new way right now, no matter where you live, no matter what you're doing, no matter where you think you'll be in 10 years or 10 minutes, act honorably with every moment and fix everything that you can, make righteous every decision that you've ever made that was unrighteous, those kinds of things. And so we're early in the class. This is only the first or second class of the session, and there's a young man in there. I have no idea what these people have done. It's something that warrants, being held in a penitentiary. So it's ugly. I don't get into their deeds with them because I'm not interested in hearing the story of what already was. I'm only interested in the story that is. What are you building going forward? Because I already know what you built based on your address is something that I'm not terribly interested in looking at, a museum of that. Are you? And the answer typically is no, I'm looking to make better decisions. Cool. So part of what we do in these classes and in these discussions, because this is a group of people that understand where they are, they also know they've got a lot on the line. And a lot of times I've talked to people and they have a very interesting perspective of the prison population or the federal inmate system, that it's just complete barbarism, etc. And that is not my experience. I have to admit that I am kept out of areas where my safety would be unduly compromised. It is a compromise regardless. However, I'm not taken into places and placed into, situations with people that haven't been carefully vetted for the class, etc. However, it is walking into a live unit and seeing it in action and seeing how the people are treated and seeing how the COs behave and the unit managers and, the counselors, etc. And I have to say, it's not nearly as chaotic and, angry and violent as I once thought so myself. However, more than the prejudice of what life is like inside the pen, so to speak, is the assumption of what prisoners are in general. And I would like to put it out there that prison inmate population is very much like autism. No one person is the same as the other. There are some broad characteristics that would define, people that are felons and that live in a, such a strict environment. There are certain indicators that would let you know, and there's certain behaviors, etc., that are endemic to a prison setting. However, we have all types of literacy, all types of family background, all types of work ability, all types of education, all types of certifications, all types of monies, whether people had it or didn't. So, we have the gamut, literally, of people of the cross-section of society that for whatever reason they chose to go in a very extreme direction with what they were going to do to be misinformed about their lives, and they made a decision significant enough, or a host of decisions significant enough, that they are in an institution for however long they're living it. And even though I don't see the harshness the same way, when I walk in there, I do understand the nature of what that system is. And even these people, if they're able to really relate to me and communicate with me and work with me and help me understand and me to help them understand, if we can have meaningful engagement and conversation that goes somewhere and that really is soul satisfying to all the people in the room, or at least it gives that appearance, then I challenge, most of the people I've known in my life that had something very nasty to say about, the prisoners or the brown people or the black people or the whatever people or the girls can't do that or whatever all the prejudices are, all the hypocrisies of things that we don't accept about other people, etc. I find the conversations with these men more engaging sometimes because they make me stop and think. They make me remember that it's too easy to get into very specific labels and very specific, easy go-to catchphrases about whole entire people. And people can be quite complicated, they can be quite nuanced, and they can be quite complex. They can also be kind of flat Stanley. I'm not saying that every single person I come across, whether they're in prison or not, is interesting. Some people are just slam boring. They want to be vanilla. They don't want to engage in any conversation that's depthful. However, if they do, man, I'm down for that because I want to know the most interesting thing about you. Please don't bore me. I may never see you again. Please let me know something interesting about you. And people that are willing to show me something besides the old paradigm and the old snarky, that girl fighting and, nasty stuff and power differentials and, elitism and Karenism and Kenism and all this other stuff. People that want to show me that, like, oh, yeah, that's an off Broadway. It's not even a show that they really are, supporting anymore. It kind of went out a while ago, and yet there are places where those shows still thrive. They just don't thrive in my world. However, I find it fascinating that I can walk into a federal institution, a federal prison, where people have done really bad stuff, and I get more engaging answers and more hope for our future that these are people that understand the meaning of what they're doing. The people in my class anyway, that is not an across the board, all people in prison understand what they're doing and they're all working hard to change their lives. I would not be so bold or so ignorant as to say that. However, I can say that many of the people, many of the men that are in my classes are working very much so and have a right mind to recreate their life in such a way that it is meaningful, that it is engaged, that it is depthful, and that it is aware, very aware of the impact that it has on other people. Even when they have had negative impact on people in the past, these are men that are willing to stand up and say, yeah, I've done some things that really did not serve me or my family well, and I'm willing to act more nobly. I'm willing to act more honorably. I'm willing to be brought to a different understanding of me, because the truth is, no matter whether I like the truth or not, we don't have any hard and fast evidence that there's an empathy gene that is missing in certain people. We do not have evidence or anything that really truly can tell us for sure that we are genetically given a bad gene and therefore we are awful people, therefore we turn out horribly. There is no truth to that. There are predispositions, of course, and there are genetic markers that lean heavy. However, you have people that are the outliers who are breaking down those stereotypes all the time for that very reason, that the mass of people, are not all people. And just because there's a group of people that are doing a certain thing, they're in the hive consciousness, they're in the hive mind, they're in the collective consciousness that is, of lower integrity and lower ability and lower frequency, then we need to rise above that. And some people choose to, some people are destined to, some people, have a contract to, some people do, period, for whatever reason they do, and some people do not. It appears out here that they are choosing to just be jerks. They're choosing, and they are at an egoic level, they perhaps are really enjoying that. However, no matter what I like or don't like, people come to their own awareness and their own abilities and their own willingness to address any of it on their own. And they don't get there any faster with guilt tripping, shaming, blaming, or trying to, put up a battle point or a fight or to, bully them, etc. There are people that I have seen They're not in my class, thank goodness, but I have seen people in prison that they're just making life tough, double tough for them because they're fighting the system. They're railing against the system, even though they did what it took to get into the system. They played in the system and they lost to the system, and they're still fighting the system. To me, that's a waste of time. However, me putting my judgment, my stank, or my anything on that other than just the quiet observation of, okay, not suitable for my class, that's really all I need to know. And all that needs to happen is for me to pull my energy out of that, refrain from putting a whole lot of stank or thought on that or opinion, because me putting my thoughts of approval or disapproval, either one, does not help this person reach their greatest good, period. People that consider themselves to be awakeners, etc., that's fine. That's entirely possible that we do come here and we do awaken people. It is entirely possible that that is our job. I'm not saying it isn't. However, when we believe that we have to awaken everybody, or that our designated job is that we must do this, therefore I have to cross over into your sovereignty and your independence as your own sovereign nation, I have to come and usurp that, take it over, and manage it for you, that defies exactly what this process is, which is the process of becoming very sovereign nations and very sovereign individuals who can handle themselves independently and sovereignly as spiritual beings and as physical beings, because we're integrating the balance of the two.